Welcome to the Information It's Complicated workshop. My name is Mark and I'm a librarian with Meath County Libraries and I'm one half of the Meath Glassroom project, the Misinformation edition. This project is an EU-funded project in conjunction with IFLA, the International Federation of Library Associations and Institutions, and Tactical Tech. There is a physical exhibition that's on display in either Navan or Ashbourne libraries and consists of 6 posters and a number of interactive maps. The posters will either be on display in the windows or actually physically in the library itself, depending on whatever level of the COVID restrictions apply at the time. We've also created the web pages for people who cannot access either of the 2 libraries, and we've provided a walkthrough video of the exhibition. All the interactive apps are available through the links on the website, as well as the downloadable versions of the Data Detox Kit, so please have a look and explore the exhibition. So hopefully today we'll figure out why information is so complicated, learn some investigation skills, put them to use, and find out what we can do to stop the spread of misleading information. So why is information so complicated? First, we need to take a step back and look at everything that surrounds the information we see today. So the internet is the first thing we need to look at. The internet has changed how we consume information. First of all, the sheer amount of information that's available to us. Secondly, the way that we consume information has changed. Whereas before we'd go to a library or get a newspaper once a day. Now we have the whole world at our fingertips through social media and a 24-hour news cycle. And finally, the information we see is often based on algorithmically generated content, which means that the way we use the internet, the things we search for, the things we post, what we buy, is fed back to us. So what you see on your social media feed or your search engine results may be very different from the person sat next to you. This is often called a filter bubble or an echo chamber, and it can have a huge impact on how we process information. For example, if you're just seeing the information that an algorithm thinks you like, then you won't be challenged on opposing views. So we're going to take a quick question. Can anyone guess how many things are searched in Google every day? The answer is 3.5 billion. So the second thing we need to look at is society, things that happen all over the world all the time. It's not that more things are happening now, it's just that we're more connected than ever before. Someone doing a dance challenge on TikTok in Malaysia can be seen in real time by somebody sat on their sofa in Europe. And just like the algorithms that work on the internet, things that are happening all over the world are sometimes shaped by other factors, such as politics, economics, money and power. And this can alter what we're seeing, or can make some things seem more important than other things. And finally, humans. We are emotional creatures, which means that we have an emotional relationship to information. If I see an article that says that it's been scientifically proven that hedgehogs are the cutest animals, then I'm more likely to believe it because it confirms my view of hedgehogs. Whereas if I see an article that states that hedgehogs have been biting people, I'm less likely to believe it or want to share it. Secondly, our brains are constantly sorting through information and making snap decisions about what to believe and what to throw to the side. Our brains make mental shortcuts to help us make sense of the world, often without us even knowing. For example, if I'm scrolling through social media and I see 20 posts about different things, I may scroll past 2 or 3 posts that are based on fashion or bloggers and stuff like that, because that's not something I'm interested in. Whereas if I see something that has sport related or football related, I might stop and read them instead. And finally, we also have different motives for sharing things, such as peer pressure, political influence, or because we think it's funny. So when you add all these things together, you're left with a mess. So let's try and move on now and start untangling some of it. So beyond the fake news, in order to begin to understand the complexity of information, we need to get past calling it fake news. The term fake news has become quite popular and used more frequently in the last few years, but should we be using this term, or is it misleading? Think about it for a moment before we move on to the next slide. It's actually far more complicated than that. The fact-checking organisation, First Draft, came up with this diagram to explain the different types of information. As you can see in the centre, you've got disinformation, which is content that is intentionally false and designed to cause harm. It is motivated by 3 distinct factors: to make money, to have a political influence, either foreign or domestic, or to cause trouble for the sake of it. When disinformation is shared, it often turns into misinformation, which is on the left-hand side. Misinformation also describes false content, but the person sharing it doesn't realise that it is false or misleading. Often a piece of disinformation is picked up by somebody who doesn't realise it's false and shares it within their networks, believing that they are helping. The third category on the right is malinformation. This term describes genuine information that is shared with intent to cause harm. An example of malinformation is when the Russian agents hacked into the emails of the Democratic National Committee and the Hillary Clinton campaign and leaked certain details to the public to damage the reputation. Within those three categories, there are some more definitions which you can see on the scale here and go from low harm to high harm. There are 7 in total, all the way from satire or parody to actually fabricated content which can be really harmful. I'll let you see the definitions properly in a couple of slides. A way of thinking of the scale is like a traffic light system, with green being relatively low harm and red being really high harm. So on the left you have the content that may fool people but that isn't meant to harm them. On the right you have content that is 100% false and is designed to deceive people on purpose. So we look at each of these individually now with a couple of examples. So here we have satire parody. This is an example that is taken from the Waterford Whispers News. It is a very popular satirical site which is intended to be funny. Satire often gets reshared and more people lose the connection to the original message and it fails to understand it as satire. There is no intent to cause any harm, but it has potential to fool people. The second is false connection. This is where a headline, visuals or captions don't support the content. Often the headline will make you want to click on it because it seems unbelievable or shocking, or it'll say something like, "You won't believe what happens next." So quick question for you. Can anyone tell me what the term is used for an article which is misleading headlines? The answer is clickbait. The third concept is misleading content. Misleading content appears all the time. It can be reframing stories in headlines, using fragments of quotes to support a wider point, citing statistics in a way that aligns with a certain position. When making a point, everyone is prone to drawing out the content that supports their overall argument. It's not always done with intended harm. This example shows a Ugandan climate activist, Vanessa Nakate, who was cropped out of a photo by the Associated Press featuring prominent climate activists. Associated Press later said it was purely for compositional grounds. But you can see how it's starting to get more complicated by just cropping that one person out. The fourth is false context. This category is used to describe content that is genuine but has been reframed in dangerous ways. In April 2020, a series of photographs started circulating on WhatsApp and Telegram that supposedly showed the aftermath of a car fire caused by an unattended bottle of hand sanitizer. It was basically saying that the heat in the car was able to make the alcohol actually ignite and it burned the car. Soon after, a number of news outlets picked up this story and ran the article about how the fire department was warning people not to leave hand sanitizer in the car. It was actually an untrue article that the hand sanitizer actually caught fire. It was actually something else that caught fire in the car. The fifth one is imposter content. Do you remember discussing the mental shortcuts our brains make to help us make sense of the world? Well, when we see a brand that we recognise, we're more likely to instantly verify and trust that information. Imposter content is false or misleading content that uses well-known logos or the news from established figures or journalists. Here the example shows a website pretending to be ABC News, but if you look closely at the URL, you'll see that something looks wrong. You can see that it's abcnews.com, but then it's .co, which shouldn't be there. The other one below is a Twitter feed from BBC News Breaking. Now you can see that it's there, BBC Breaking News at BBC Break EI. First of all, though, you'd notice sometimes with a BBC, a well-known organisation, they would have the verified tick. Also, looking at the people that they're followers, you would expect someone of the BBC News to actually have more than 341 followers. So this would be something that I would be very wary of. The sixth one is manipulated content. This is when genuine information or imagery is manipulated to deceive. You'll often see manipulated content in relation to photos or videos, such as this fake video of US House of Representatives Speaker Nancy Pelosi giving a speech in May 2019. The footage was slowed down slightly, and just that simple form of manipulation made Pelosi appear drunk and slurring her words. I'm going to play some of this video now, and then we can see.
Well, President Trump is among those sharing some distorted videos of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi on social media. In one clip, it's doctored footage that slows her down to make her sound like she's slurring her words a little bit. Now, the president didn't exactly share the doctored stuff, but he did share another video. Here's one altered version of her comments at a Center for the American Progress event on Wednesday. It was posted on Facebook by a far right-wing group. Again, this is not accurate. This is fake.
We want to give this president the opportunity to do something historic for our country.
So what's amazing about this, it's clearly doctored. You can, I mean, if anybody with a brain watching this would be like, this is not a normal speeded, the video's been slowed down.
Yeah.
So again, pointing out, this is a fake video. The Washington Post notes, of course, the pitch of Pelosi's voice has also been altered. Here's the unedited version of the same clip.
We want to give this president the opportunity to do something historic for our country. While there are those
So it's been spread on social media, and a lot of people have picked it up. Facebook, for its part, says it's going to reduce the video's prominence in its newsfeed and give it context through related articles. But the clip won't be taken down. Now, here's a clip that President Trump tweeted. It came from Fox Business. Now, he had originally pinned it to the top of his Twitter feed. You know, on Twitter, you can pin a tweet, and it's the first tweet that you see if you look at somebody's Twitter feed. He has since unpinned it, even though it still exists on his Twitter page. The video has been misleadingly edited. Take a look at this.
we had a little took a little longer on the floor, custody of the border. Everyone, he started sending signals.
So what's remarkable about this is from a news organization.
Yeah.
I know. I mean, that's what they call themselves, right? And so it's one, on one hand, you got that doctor video, which has been slurred, and that's from somebody who decided to put out there some fake information. But this is from a media organization.
Yeah.
So
deliberately sort of highlighting
the stumbles that
which
just
we
like the
all
one
do.
you just did right now, right? So we better make sure nobody ever edits us because we'll look like real morons.
Don't give them any ideas. So we aired, somebody out there's like, you already do. There's no editing needed.
You don't need to edit a video, Vlad. You already are.
All right, so we aired Pelosi's full news conference yesterday on CBSN. Here are some of her remarks.
I truly believe that the president has a bag of tricks, and the White House has a bag of tricks that they save for certain occasions. They don't necessarily apply to the occasion, but they're a distraction, which is his master of distraction. We will all agree on that.
So asked whether the network stands by its video, a spokesperson for Fox Business tells CBS News that the Fox Business segment featuring clips from Nancy Pelosi's speech did not slow down any aspect of her address. Yeah, I mean, we know that it wasn't slowed down, but it was deliberately edited to essentially make her look bad, and I don't know how that has news value. But so we haven't heard directly from Nancy Pelosi in a direct statement, but we have heard from her spokesperson, essentially spokesperson reminding everyone that Nancy Pelosi actually does not drink, if they were inferring that something was going on there. And they sort of see this, some of her supporters see this as a sexist attack on Pelosi, and it's really, in their words, only going to make her stronger in her caucus.
You can clearly see that the video is doctored and that the speed has been tampered with. What's actually funny as well is the statement that Fox News said that they never tampered with the video and stuff like that. So maybe it was some other third party, but they never verified the information to see was there any other videos with the normal speed. Also, the fact that Donald Trump pinned it and retweeted it shows that this is how the false information can be spread so easily and the amount of followers that Donald Trump has. You can see how quickly that went through. And finally, we have fabricated content. This is content that is totally false. In July 2016, at the website WTOE5 News reported that Pope Francis had broken with tradition and unequivocally endorsed Donald Trump for President of the United States. The article reads, the news outlets around the world are reporting that on the news that the Pope Francis had made an unprecedented decision to endorse the US presidential candidate. His statement in support of Donald Trump was released from the Vatican this evening. I have been hesitant to offer any kind of support for either candidate in the US presidential election, but I now feel that not to voice my concerns would be of a dereliction of my duties as the Holy See. WTOE5 News is one of the many fake news sites that masquerades as local television news outlets and does not publish factual stories. So this is actually content that is 100% false and designed to cause harm and to deceive people that wouldn't know any better. Now, we're going to look closely at these next examples and see can you figure out which of those 7 types of information they are. So this example is from the far-right news site Brexibart News, based in America. It is an article about an EU draft environmental policy that calls for insect-based proteins as a good alternative for animal-based products. The title reads, EU Green Agenda calls for eating bugs to save the planet. So where do we think this fits in on the scale? False context? Would it be fabricated content? Would it be misleading? For me, it actually lands in false connection because the headline doesn't support the content. There is a bit of clickbait going on here. It could also fall under misleading content. This EU draft report is being framed in a sensationalist way. The report isn't saying that we have to eat the bug burgers. So here's the next example. Here's what happened when 6 corgi puppies visited a college campus. And then there's a video of tiny corgi puppies running through a field. So where do we think this falls on the scale? This is a prime example of false connection. The article doesn't say anything and it's a perfect example of clickbait for a website. Here's what the article reads when you actually click into it. Puppy party takeover. 6 corgi puppies make the trip to Georgia Tech last week. Perhaps they are scouting out the college for a possible opinion for when they graduate obedience school. I hear Georgia Tech offers a very comprehensive program for snuggling and not peeing on things in the house. Or maybe they just went there to be adorable and make people fall in love with them. Puppies like to do that. As you see, the context within the article, it was not relevant to anything at all. It's just pure clickbait to try and get more hits onto the website. So here's another example now. In January 2020, a rumour started circulating on social media that The Simpsons had predicted the outbreak of the coronavirus. The first 3 panels there, basically the one that's not in the bottom right-hand corner, are unaltered and original and originate from the 1993 episode entitled Margin Chains. The 4th panel in the graphic, the one in the very bottom right there, is doctored and actually comes from a different episode of The Simpsons. The panel featuring Springfield reporter Kent Brockman comes from an episode, The Fool Monty. The words coronavirus were added on top of the image which originally read Apocalypse Meow. So where do we think this falls in on the scale? For me, it depends on the context it's being used. It could be harmless satire or parody, or it could be on the other end of the scale as manipulated content. Normally in this workshop we would use this slides to discuss the participants' opinions on whether it would fall into either the satire or the parody or whether it's manipulated content. If you're watching this from home or in a class, maybe you could start a discussion about where you actually think it falls in, or if you've seen any other online. Also, if you have any other examples that you think of your own experience of these types of information from anywhere on the different scale, have a chat with either somebody at home or chat among yourselves in the classroom and discuss where you actually think they'd all fall on the scales. So part 3, become an investigator. So what can you do? In this next section, we're going to figure out how to look behind the content we see on the internet every day. First, we're going to try some image verification skills using just our eyes and no digital tools. So look closely at the images. I'm going to show you next and see if you can spot any clues as to which capital city these images are from. I'm going to give you 15 seconds for each video before saying which city it is. If you want more time, please pause the video and take a more detailed look. Okay, so this is actually demonstrators gathered in Berlin to protest the heightened Israeli attacks on Gaza in July 2014. Can anyone see why this is actually Berlin? I'll give you a couple of little clues. So we have the Starbucks coffee, we have the modern European architecture on the building behind. We also have the language up there. It's definitely German. You can see that we would be very familiar to know it's from German or surrounding countries. And also, if anyone has ever been to Germany, you can actually see that the sign for the train station with the U. So I'm going to go on to the next one now. Okay, so this is Chinatown in London. There's a couple of clues that actually show where it is. You can actually see the language. You've got restaurant in the bottom left-hand corner there. The architecture, it's very much, if you've been to London, you'll actually know that it is very much English London architecture. Also, if you've been to London before or been to anywhere in England, you see the parking signs, and it's also in English and stuff like that. And also the betting shop in the bottom corner, Ladbrokes. It's an English UK chain. It's a well-known, popular chain. Here's the third example now. Okay, and this is actually Paris. It's the Gilets Jaunes protest against Macron's raising of the fuel tax prices. What are the signs, the clues there that might have been? Well, you've got the famous monument, the Arc de Triomphe. You have the Yellow Vest movement. It was quite popular in the news and it would have been seen a lot. You've got the regional flag of Burgundy as well, if anyone knows from the area. Also, if you look at the weather and the fact that they're wearing scarves and they're wearing hats and stuff like that, you know it's around the autumn-winter time, which would be, if you were to do a bit of searching, it would have been around the time that the Yellow Vest movement was actually happening. Now we're going to look at some social media posts and see if you can spot any misleading information. So here's the first one. So what information can you see here? Who has shared it, and are they a reputable source? So as you can see, it's from Madonna's Twitter account. What is the news story about? Have you heard about the Amazon rainforest fires before? This looks like a legitimate post from a worthy source. How do we go about verifying this information? As you know, a lot of information has images alongside it. We've got news reports, social media, etc. There are a lot of tools that we can do to check the image. I'm going to show you one of them now. So this website is called tineye.com. And what Tineye is it's a reverse image search engine. So what you can do is you can upload your image, you can paste it in, or you can enter in the URL. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to enter in the image that Madonna had tweeted. So I'm going to hopefully pop it in here. So it's now searching. And we get 427 results on it. So you can actually sort here by best match, most changed image, the biggest image, newest, oldest. So we're going to go by oldest because we want to see when it was actually first released. So as you can see here, it's saying the first found on April 23rd, 2008 from an article in The Guardian that was actually from the 24th of October in 2007. So we'll just click in on the link and we see. So what you can actually see is it actually is an article about the deforestation in the Amazon. So that means that it is a legitimate photograph about the topic that Madonna was talking about. But if you actually see here, here's her image. It was actually taken in June 1989. So it was actually taken 30 years before Madonna actually tweeted about it. So it is out of date compared to the context that Madonna was talking about. So we've just got to be careful on like the images. They may be correct and they may be from the correct area, but it might actually just not be a timely image. You can also see from the search here that there is other ones going back to Britannia Radio. You've got ones from people's Twitter accounts. Like there's an awful lot of them there. But you can go in and explore any image and see how many times it's been used or shared. So it's a very useful tool to actually check and verify the image. So let me just explain how Tineye actually works. Tineye constantly trawls the web and adds images to its index. Around about 41.4 billion images are actually in the Tineye index. Tineye uses image recognition to search for an image and find matches to your search images. It creates a unique and compact digital signature or a fingerprint for its use in image recognition software, and then it compares this fingerprint to every other image in the index to find the matches. It is really, really useful, and you should even just have a look at it and try some photographs, random photographs from different websites, and see when they were used. Here's the next example. So it's just from a WhatsApp group. Can anyone see any clues to say what we might be wary of to verify the information, or how to verify the information from it? Here are a couple that I see. So first of all, you can see that it's a forward message. You can also see the emotional reaction there in the message from it. You see where amazing, incredible, and 3 exclamation marks have been used. Also, you can see the date. It's April Fool's Day. But they're sharing an article. You can see the link there on the bottom. So let's take a look at the article more. If you read the article, I'm going to click it up now. There are also clues that it's a satire or parody article that has been made up for April Fool's Day. In the last 2 sentences, you can see that it mentions April 1st, and it also mentions woolly mammoths. So you know that it is a comedy and it's not actually one to actually cause harm. So part 4, sharing with care. So how do you stop the spread of misleading information? What is our role in this? Here's 3 things that you can do right now. First of all, you can recognize your emotions. Remember that we respond to information emotionally. One of the best things you can do is to recognize your emotional reactions to information. If you find yourself having a strong emotional reaction or even using lots of exclamation marks, then try and take a step back. You might be, the information that you're reacting to might be false or misleading. Do you have any techniques that helps you to recognize your emotions and to calm you down? Sometimes I like to take a couple of deep breaths if something really angers me, and then I'll go and read it again just to make sure that it is the correct information. The second thing we do is dig a little deeper. If you see information that you are suspicious of, then look more closely at it. You've already seen reverse image searching and doing image verification. But you can also ask some critical questions. Who is sharing this? What is their motive? Who's behind it? Some other digital investigation techniques that can be used are a thing called dorking. It's advanced internet searches across different search engines to find information that may otherwise be hidden or hard to find. Retrieving and archiving information from websites even if they've been taken down. And using maps to verify and find information. So if you have an area that's talking about a place, you can actually go onto the map and actually verify that that place actually exists, that you can actually use Google Maps, you can use other maps to see that it does the actual building, if they're talking about a building, actually exist in that area, or is the shop front the same. There's plenty of tools that we can use. Tactical Tech is a project called Exposing the Invisible. There is a kit which is all about digital investigation tools that anyone can use, and I've included the web address at the end slides, and it also is in our useful links on the website. And finally, talk to people. A starting point, start pointing out information that you think might be false or misleading. And this doesn't mean pointing fingers and saying that it's people's fault and that they're stupid, because we're all victims of sharing mis and disinformation. You can tell someone that they've shared something false by using emphatic language like, I've seen lots of people sharing this and I'm concerned that it's not true. And better yet, share proof that you've found that it isn't true. Thank you. I hope that you enjoyed the workshop and took something away from it, and hopefully you can get to see the physical exhibition in either Navan or Ashburn. As I said at the start of the workshop, all the information is available on the Mead Library's website, as well as tacticaltech.org. And if you'd like to learn more about this topic, here are some great resources and organisations working on it, and here are some of the links to the useful websites. Thanks again.